Hello fellow geeks and welcome back to Running Geek Girl. My name is Heather and I'm glad you're here. Now you may have seen a lot of pictures that I put up on Instagram where I'm sporting my AfterShokz. I am a big fan of AfterShokz. Hashtag not sponsored. But what you don't know is what I listen to in them. In the past year, I've gotten to be a really big fan of podcasts. Don't get me wrong, I love having music on a run, but I've found that a lot of times I just want to zone out and listen to other people talk. Since I'm a solo runner and I don't really have a running group that I can hang with and listen to them have conversations, I stick to podcasts. So I'm going to give you a list of 10 podcasts that I recommend because I personally listen to them. I'm going to divide them into first the running related, then the non-running related, and then a 10th bonus podcast that you may enjoy. We'll start with the running related podcasts, and number 1 on the list is I Run Things. First of all, if you're not subscribed to I Run Things on YouTube, make sure that you do that. I'm going to drop her link down in the description. Susie is amazing. She has a very friendly, easygoing demeanor that really brings the best out of her interviewees. And she talks to all kinds of runners, people who have gone through all sorts of different experiences. And there's lots of motivation and inspiration in all the stories that she puts up on her channel and on her podcast. So definitely check her out as soon as you can. Next is The Run Wave. Kim, aka Straight Kim, is a runner from New York, and she definitely gets to the heart of things as soon as she can. Kim gives very straightforward interviews and really gets to the heart of the matter in all of the questions that she asks. She gives it to you straight. Kim has put a lot of work into this podcast in order to make sure that Black runners and other runners of color can make sure that their voices are heard throughout the running community. Every interview that I've heard has been informative, and Kim is not afraid to give her opinion on anything. Next is Runners Without Limits. Heather and Jen are a coach and athlete who also happen to be friends and Disney fanatics. This podcast combines their experiences and their different areas of expertise where they share a lot of what they've gone through and what they've discovered over their running careers in order to help you out along the way. They have an easy, friendly demeanor and great banter back and forth. If you're looking for a couple of friendly gals to talk to you about running while you're out on your morning run, definitely give this one a try. And of course, there's the Another Mother Runner podcast. Sarah and Dimity and their team have put together an amazingly all-encompassing podcast that covers all areas that you could possibly think of. They cover training, nutrition, ultra running, being at home with your kids, fitting running into your schedule, anything that a mother could possibly deal with from the early years all the way up to being an empty nester. They've got something there that's going to help you out. And sometimes things get a little crazy. Recently, they interviewed a woman who did her first nude race. That one was a really good one. Definitely check that episode out. Moving on to the non-running related podcasts that I listen to. First of all, there's Dear Hank and John. Many of you are familiar with the author John Green, who is behind books such as The Fault in Our Stars, Looking for Alaska, An Abundance of Catherines. He and his brother Hank are also fairly well known on the internet for the YouTube channel Vlogbrothers, in which they send a video postcard back and forth to each other several times a week. They have quite a following around the internet that call themselves the Nerd Fighters. And so they put together a podcast in which they offer dubious advice to their listeners' questions, as well as giving you the weekly news from Mars and AFC Wimbledon. Next is The Hilarious World of Depression. John Moe has started this podcast because he noticed that quite a few people that he knew that are quite famous comedians also struggle with depression. And he set out to answer the question, is depression funny? This podcast features lengthy interviews with comedians, actors, writers, and so forth, and their experiences with clinical depression, or as they call it, Clinny D. I can't tell you how many times that I've listened to someone's experience and thought, yes, that is exactly what I've been through. It's somewhat comforting if you're dealing with depression to hear that someone else has gone through the same thing that you have. So if you or if anyone you know has depression, or if you just want to hear about these people's stories and their struggles and their triumphs, check this one out. Next is Sword and Scale. Sword and Scale is probably one of the better known true crime podcasts that there is out there. The podcast itself is very well researched and very interesting, very well edited, and I do enjoy listening to it to get the information on these true crime stories. It does tend to be pretty grisly, so listener beware. Small town murder. On the other side of true crime podcasts, this is the intersection of true crime and comedy. James Petrogello and Jimmy Wisman have put together a podcast in which they take a look at the absurdity of some of the smallest towns in America and the weirdest murders that have come out of them. Very rarely have I been able to listen to a true crime podcast that really made me laugh. If you're looking for a little bit of a lighter side to murder, this may be the one for you. Quite Unusual. This is a podcast that I've only recently discovered, but I've really been enjoying what I've been hearing so far. Best friends Nicole and Noelle each week will take a look at a different crazy myth, legend, or paranormal phenomenon that they discuss for about 45 minutes and give their opinions on it. It's very lighthearted, sometimes silly, very friendly banter about the weird and unusual. And finally, number 10, and I consider this one a bonus podcast. This is not one that is a recurring weekly one. This is one that was a limited edition podcast that only went for one season, but is definitely worth a listen. It's called Deadly Manners. Deadly Manners is written in the style of a radio play. It takes place in the 1950s on a stormy night at a fancy party in a large mansion. Suddenly, someone is murdered and everything begins to go wrong. Over the course of several episodes, you'll find that everyone in the house has a secret that they're trying to hide. The podcast features such personalities as Kristen Bell and RuPaul and is narrated by LeVar Burton. It's spooky, it's mysterious, and it will definitely hold your attention if you're trying to zone out on that long run. So there you have it. There are 10 podcasts that I recommend because they're ones that I listen to all the time. If you found this helpful or fun, why don't you let me know by leaving me a comment down below or giving me a big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure that you hit that subscribe button because I have new running content coming out on this channel all the time. Why don't you check me out on social media? You can find me across most platforms under the name Running Geek Girl. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad that you're here and I can't wait to see you next time. Happy running.